I'm in pain. This hurts really bad. And they're like, you're doing something wrong. And so that was so discouraging because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I went in feeling so prepared, and then it was nothing at all like I expected.
Everybody's so different and it's not going to come natural. You have to learn, just like learning how to take care of a baby.
At no point did it actually feel natural.
You're allowed to hate it and you're allowed to love it. You just do whatever works for you.
As long as he's well fed and well loved, which we know he is, he won't remember any of this and he'll be like, why'd you put so much pressure on yourself? Well, thank you everyone for joining today's Everymom Group Chat. Super excited to talk to you about today's topic, which is all things feeding. As a soon-to-be first-time mom myself, I am super excited to talk to all of you as seasoned moms and hear about your feeding journeys and experiences because I truly know nothing. So you're going to tell me all of the things I need to know. I do want to acknowledge that today's topic, feeding, is deeply personal and often an emotional topic. So this is obviously a no judgment zone for the moms on the call and those of us listening in. We are just here to support moms and hear about everyone's individual experiences. And I am looking forward to learning a lot about feeding. So to start, I'd love to go around and just have everyone give me a little info on where you're at in your motherhood journey and your experience with feeding so far.
Okay, so I am a mom of two. My kids are 5 and 3, and they are pretty close in age. So I kind of accidentally had them back to back, not planned that way, but it's what happened. I ended up breastfeeding my son for like 15 months, exclusively breastfed him. And then I had my daughter, I was pregnant with my daughter while I was weaning my son off. Had her, and then I breastfed her for about 13 months. Towards the end of that time, I did supplement with formula. So I've done a little bit of both, but mostly breastfeeding.
Patty, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I have two kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And with my 1-year-old, it's been a couple of months since I stopped breastfeeding. But with our journey with my 1-year-old, we stopped breastfeeding around 7 months, mostly for my mental health. And I'm just naturally an underproducer with both boys. And so at that point, we switched to just formula feeding. And then with my 4-year-old, did a little bit of breastfeeding, also had to go back on maternity leave. So just combo of breastfeeding, formula feeding, and we did that up until he was a year.
Kira, as the newest mom on the call, tell us how you're doing with feeding.
My son is 5 months old, almost 6 months old, actually. And we are currently combo feeding. We had a solid month where I was supplying enough to do pumping exclusively. He never latched. Now we're back to a combo feeding. However, I've really grown to love it, and I'm starting to kind of like wean off of exclusively pumping because that is not cool in my personal experience. I hate it. I think it's like great if like you're really into it and it works for you. I had like a solid stretch where I was like, this is awesome. But now I'm like, this is hell. And I'm ready to be done.
I have 1,000 questions to follow up, but we will have Kathy.
I know. I want to be with you, Kira, because I have two girls. They're older now. They're 9 and 12, but the feeding journey is just like so emotional. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was just crazy. I had a NICU preemie with my first. So she had like feeding tube through her nose. So I didn't even get to try to breastfeed until she was a couple weeks old, and it never stuck. I think she maybe latched once, Kira. So I feel you. So I was pumping, but also underproducing Patty. So she was like a NeoSure formula baby, and then mostly formula. And then with my second, I was able to breastfeed her, and I had no idea how hard it was because of the first journey. And I think I think I weaned her at about 7 months, but it was combo probably from 3 months on because it's too tough to do exclusive for me.
Well, that's a good segue, Kathy, into my first question for the group. And it's selfishly a question that I want to know to see how prepared or not I am feeling. But before you all had your first baby, how much do you feel like you knew about feeding? And did that totally change when you were like actually doing it?
I was one of those people who went to like the breastfeeding class before, like while I was pregnant. My mom had, like, I remember her doing it because I'm the oldest of four. So I was just like, this is going to be so natural. I had a friend who had a baby a couple of months before me, and she would just like, could feed her baby anywhere so easy. So I just expected it to be like that. And I was very prepared to just have it be this easy, natural thing. And it just was so the opposite. I feel like it was the biggest, one of my biggest early motherhood struggles. But yeah, I like went in feeling so prepared, and then it was nothing at all like I expected, as with many things in parenting.
Yeah, I think you say the word natural, and that's the thing that always got me. Like when people say natural, I think like, oh, it's just going to come naturally to me. And it is not that at all. And nobody warned me that everybody's so different and it's not going to come natural. You have to learn, just like learning how to take care of a baby. So that's what was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of all of what you both have said. It's like you have this idea, or at least I did, that it was just going to be like this easy thing. Like people have been doing it forever, and how else do babies eat? And that is not at all what it was. And the mental battle of like, what's wrong with me? Why isn't it working? Is really real and hard. I remember asking Steph, and I was so optimistic, Steph, give me all your advice. I'm going to be an exclusive breastfeeder. And she was like, yes, you go. And I was like, yeah, I know it. I'm going to do it. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, I love the passion. It's not there anymore.
That's the tricky part about like, even when I didn't have the issues with supply. So like I had an overproduction. That was my journey. I was very much engorged, like all the time. Just I had way too much. And looking at that side, I know how that is a huge pro to most moms, especially ones that struggle with underproduction. But on the other end, I felt like I had to breastfeed because I had the milk, because I was producing. There was no choice in it for me, regardless of how it affected my mental health. Because just like you guys, it was a very arduous mental health journey. The lack of sleep, the like being tied to your baby constantly, even though I did pump, it was always easier for me to just whip it out, especially working from home. I lost a lot of my sense of self breastfeeding for that long, especially back to back. And it felt like I have to do it. Like I'm producing. There's so many moms that don't produce anything. Like this is a gift. I have to just suck it up and do it. And that's kind of the other side of that coin. And at no point, I agree with you guys, it actually feel natural. It was organic, I guess, obviously, because it's coming from your body, but it did not feel natural because it was a lot of like latching issues at first and a lot of pain that I wasn't expecting whatsoever. Like going into it, no one in my family had breastfed for more than like a couple of weeks. And it was so incredibly painful. And I don't know if it's just because my kids have a strong bite or what, but they were both painful. And it was just very much like, I have to push through it because I have milk and I have to suck it up and do it. And eventually, like, the pain subsided, but it was still that, like, I don't have a choice in the matter. I'm just going to do it. But yeah, natural, not so much.
The pain.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the pain because, oh my God, I literally didn't expect it to hurt at all. And when I was in the hospital, all of the nurses were like, it shouldn't hurt. And I'm like, it hurts bad. Like I'm in pain. This hurts really bad. And they're like, you're doing something wrong. And so that was so discouraging because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. What do you mean? Like, and it's literally just your body. They can help you, but it's so painful at first. Or it was,
It is.
it was so,
It was like toe curling painful.
yeah.
And like I had lactation consultants come in and like help me with my latch, and he was like technically latched correctly, and so was my daughter, but it's something with either my body or their anatomy, whatever it was. Like I was like in excruciating pain for at least 2 weeks. And then of course comes like the nipple cracking and then the like engorgement, the clogged ducts, all of those things. Kira, I know you struggled with mastitis, which is a whole beast.
Yeah.
But I remember one time I was like in such pain. I was in the shower, like just letting the hot water pour on me, and like milk was just like coming out. It was like the only relief I could feel, like just letting it roll off of me. And my husband was like, they look like rocks. It was so I was not expecting how painful it would be in like every aspect.
I feel like the dramatic change to your own body is very jarring. Like the engorgement was crazy. I didn't even breastfeed. I was only pumping, and still, I mean, just blood. And I mean, I can remember it so vividly because it was just such this, like, I don't know. And I don't want to scare Julia.
Poor Julia. I'm sorry. We're just complaining.
No,
There are things you can do to help, like
Yes,
all the
so
nipple
many.
creams. Like I think my biggest piece of advice is, like, if you're in pain, do what all of us are saying, and like say that you're in pain, because it can be like a latch that is a little off. I did with my second have a really lovely lactation consultant who, like, I mean, and they are right up on you, like making the baby like a Pez dispenser to like get them on the right way. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. I'm like, yes, I'm doing it. And she was like, this is all wrong. You're going to like hate this. It's going to be so painful if you keep letting her do it this way. So she really helped. There's stuff you can do to lessen the pain, but it's just like the adjustment period.
Yeah. It's just going to be a very new sensation, and it could be painful depending on you. But if you're latched right and the baby is latched, is doing what they're supposed to do and you're doing what you're supposed to do, eventually it does stop hurting. And like, even though I felt that like loss of independence or just like I had to do it, after a certain point, usually, especially with my second, because I knew what was happening and I knew what the journey would look like, it became a lot more easy and like second nature. I think in my situation, it was just like doing it back to back was like, okay, I just want to be done. But if I had had those experiences separately, I think it would have felt a lot sweeter after like the first couple of months of getting the hang of it. Because although it, again, didn't feel natural, it does feel like second nature. Like once you understand what's going on with your body, once you feel educated enough, once you feel empowered enough to just like whip it out and feed your baby and you both know what's going on, it feels a lot more seamless.
Yeah. I feel like as far as being prepared, there's nothing really you can do to prepare it because every child is different. And as a first time mom, it's so new. But I think like in the way of preparing yourself is just knowing that like you're allowed to say, I don't like this, or what do I do? Or is this normal? And I think if you approach it that way, then you can start from there.
This is super helpful because I am so of the opinion that I would rather know than not know. I would rather know more information to like prepare myself as much as possible. What I feel so in the dark about is like after that baby is born, like how the heck does feeding work and how do we do this? And I know like everyone keeps saying they'll teach you in the hospital. At the hospital I'm going to on the tour we did, I specifically asked about lactation consultants and they were like, you have to ask to see them. The nurses know a lot, they'll teach you a lot, but if you want like a specific lactation consultant, we have them, you just have to ask. Because that's what I'm intimidated by is I know it's not as simple as just like bringing this baby to your breast and everyone's going to know what to do. So with latching, with the amount that they're getting or not, at least with some formula feeding or pumping and then using bottles, you can kind of track ounces. Like that all seems very overwhelming to me. I'm also, as a new mom, going into feeding thinking like, I will try breastfeeding, I will try pumping, I will try formula feeding. Like I'm open to it all, but then all is overwhelming as well. So I think that for my own mental health, like I'm glad to be open to all the options. I think that might be helpful for me, but on the flip side, it's like it's so much to learn.
Yeah. I think, and that's with parenting in general, one at a time, like prepare in a sense of like, sure, buy a breast pump, buy like your nipple creams and like the things that are going to soothe your breast. Cause that's a big thing. Like anything that's like for soothing your, no matter what you do, you're going to need to soothe them.
Yeah, I need all of those products, the nipple creams,
Have
the
that on hand. Have your bottles, have at least a couple bins of formula. So at least you have everything ready for whatever might happen, but you don't need to know everything. You will learn as you need to learn. So when you give birth, like the nurses, the doctors, whatever you're comfortable with, they're going to encourage that and help you with that. So if you want to try breastfeeding first, they're going to help you with that. And if you feel like within the first week, within the first month, you're like, okay, this isn't working, let me move on to the next one. And then you learn everything you need to know about that. Because if you try to learn everything right now, your brain will break.
That's how I feel.
It'll break. It won't work. So just take
Yeah.
it all one step at a time, one challenge at a time.
That's good advice. And I think in my mind, I'm thinking I need to like do all scenarios at once. Like if I'm not breastfeeding, then I should be pumping. And then we can also figure out how to make the formula. But to your point, it can be like a spectrum and a timeline for each, and we can move through or either way, like move on to the next thing or go back to the prior thing, depending on how things are going. So I appreciate you saying that. I would love for us to talk. So we've thrown a bunch of terms out, obviously like pumping, formula feeding, combo feeding, exclusively breastfeeding. Steph, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you were the only one that exclusively breastfed. So I'd love for you to walk us through what that looked like specifically for you. Like give us a definition of exclusively breastfeeding, and then like what did that look like realistically for you day to day feeding a baby?
Sure. With Theo, with my son, it was at first I actually pumped like the first 2 weeks because again, it was so painful. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But that became overwhelming, just like having to keep track of all the different parts. So that's when I decided to try breastfeeding again, try the latch again, and we figured out a latch that wasn't crazy painful and went from there. And for me, exclusively breastfeeding, that doesn't mean that like I never pumped, because I definitely did. Like if I wanted to leave the house for a few hours, if I had something to do, if I was like maybe going to be in a meeting while he was supposed to have a feeding time, then I would pump instead and then give that to our caregiver. So I did pump, but I didn't really use formula at all with him, I think, until he was a year. And it was literally, it was for a brand. It was just to try it because I was still breastfeeding. But it was very much like we learned each other. Does that make sense? So like once I felt really comfortable in our latch, I had like an hourly, or I guess a schedule, a routine. It was like every 3 hours when he was younger, and then it kind of stretched beyond that as he got older. And I wasn't thinking about how many ounces he was eating, because I know that's a really big stressor for a lot of moms who want to exclusively breastfeed. Like they want to know, how am I going to track? Like how your boob will tell you it'll be huge and then it won't be. Like that's how you know. And the baby will be gaining weight. So as long as baby's gaining weight and you feel like your breasts are deflated again, then you know that they're good. You don't have to worry about the specific ounces. So we had that routine at night. I think I would try to extend it a little bit more, obviously. But a part of breastfeeding is that they end up comfort feeding at night as well. So that was a struggle for us, especially after like the 7-month mark. That's a whole other conversation. But it really did look like, oh, it's that time of day. Let me run over here. Okay, bye. And then leave again. And because I kind of produced too much, I would actually alternate a lot of the time. So I would like feed one side and then pump the other side, or have like the haka on the other side. And that's how I would also build a stash. And then I would do it again. So then I would switch. He would feed on one side and then I do the haka and pump on the other side. I also had like the wearable one. So it was a lot easier just to like slide in and he couldn't kick it off. It spilled everything everywhere.
I have heard that about the haka. Like get the one that goes in your bra because you won't realize your baby will kick it off you.
Yeah, it happened so many times.
That would be so upsetting to go flying.
It sucked. And also always keep either a haka or like some sort of manual pump in your bag. That's something that I learned like months in. Like if I would leave somewhere and I had a bottle prep for him, but maybe I stayed out a little bit too long and my poops were hurting because they were just so full, I could easily like manually pump or just put the haka on and just release something. And a really big thing that most people don't realize is the more you feed, the more the baby latches, the more milk you end up producing. And that was like why I kept him on a schedule, especially those first like 3 to 4 months, like faithfully every 3 hours, because I knew that that would send more signals to produce more.
How long were those sessions though? Like how long were you feeding?
Like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But he was a speed drinker, I will say. My daughter a little bit longer. She took her time. She takes her time with everything, even now. But he was just like, whip it out, give it to me. I'm hungry. Let's go. So it was like between 15, 25 minutes, he would drain it. And then the pump usually took about that long to have the same amount. It didn't take too long after we figured everything out, caveat. Because like the first couple of months, it definitely was not that fast.
Because the time commitment of it all overwhelms me, because especially when you're up in the middle of the night, people are like, okay, if you have to feed every 2 or 3 hours, but then the actual feeding takes 30, 45 minutes, depending on your baby. Then like, are you cleaning pump parts, bottle, like storing things? And then like by the time you go back to sleep or get a chance to do something else, it's like 35 minutes later, you're back in the cycle.
I'm sorry to say, but that really is how it is. At least
Yeah.
the first 2 or 3 months, it's as miserable as it sounds, and you are really not sleeping that much. That's why I tried to stay away from pumping, because of the parts of it all. At least with him, with the baby, like there are no parts. It's just him. So I'd put him on at night, half asleep, and like I would try to get him to not drain one side completely, because then it would, if I'm not pumping, then I'm gonna obviously like get clogged ducts. So I would like try to unlatch him and then move him, or I would have the haka, because with the haka it's just so much easier. No other parts besides just the haka. And we had like a mini fridge in our bedroom, and so my husband, that was his job. Like, here's a milk, and then he would pour it in the little breast milk bag and put it in our mini fridge. And in the morning, we would take it to the freezer. That was like my hack for getting through feedings quickly without doing all of the pumping, because that was much more time consuming.
We also had a mini fridge. It was like another good hack, because even if you're pumping, you can just stick all the parts in there and it's fine. You don't have to clean them in the middle of the night. You can manage that in the morning.
So if you put them in the fridge, you don't have to clean them, but you're supposed to clean them before the next time you use them? Or does the fridge like sanitize enough?
I mean, I'm not a doctor.
Talk about it. We just put it in the fridge. No one asked any
No
questions
one has to know.
about it. It's not correct, but we put it in the fridge and then we use it again. And
Just
we clean it
rinse.
at the end
I
of the
just
day.
know. I just need to know.
Just a quick little rinse, and
Yeah.
then
And then zip. No one knows. Don't tell the doc. I'm joking.
in the morning you'll disinfect everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are guidelines, but we're telling you the mom guidelines.
I need to know. This is the point of this chat. This is a mom to mom real conversation. Like,
No
What I-
sanitizers were used in the middle of the night. I could just tell you that right now.
Yeah, when I was working in the office, I would pump, and then after I was done, I'd put it in a big Ziploc bag, label it with my name, like, do not touch this, and put it in our break room fridge. And then I would take it back out again for the next pump during my work day, do it again. And then when I got home, that's when I would clean it and start over the day the next day.
that makes sense, especially in the workplace. I don't need to be spending, well, it sounds like a nice break maybe from work, but like 20 minutes watching all these parts. Plus you're in like the communal company kitchen sink. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I did on our flight because I couldn't get my head around like how do I wash this in an airplane bathroom? Like that just sounds like it no matter how much you like try to clean it, that's just going to be horrible. So I did the same thing and it was great. And just put it in a little bag, put it in my cooler, and then dig it out again and pumped again on the flight.
There's also sprays now that they have, like pump quick cleaning sprays, things like that. But really, it was just rinse it like very quickly. Just like the little parts of the pump, just to make sure it didn't have buildup.
Yeah. And even if you're not comfortable with reusing the same one, like just buy a second set to pump into. And then at the end of the day, wash everything at once. Or if you have a partner, make them do it.
Kira, would you mind walking us through like your feeding experience and what a typical day looked like for you?
Yeah. So in the hospital, I was, like I said, I'm going to breastfeed. And so I had like told the doctors, which was a big mistake, I want to breastfeed. And so then when my son was born, they were like, okay, we're going to breastfeed. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't know how I feel about this now. Like, I'm tired. I just did 24 hours of labor. Don't touch my boob. Like, I want to sleep is how I felt. And they were like, no, 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 this is really important. We need to latch right now or it's not going to work. And I was like, okay. So we did it right off the bat. I was like, I hate this. I hate this. Why did I do this to myself? I don't want to do this anymore. And that mentality kind of followed me the first day of his life. And I talk about it as like the first day because that sounds like not a lot of time. But when you're in the hospital for 2 days, that first day, at least in my experience, felt like 15 days. There's so much to learn. There's so much going on. There's so many people in the room. And so like the feeding of it all was like what was stressing me out the most. And yeah, so I just like really shut down. I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm so overwhelmed by all of this. So we kept trying to latch and he just like wouldn't have it. He would scream, throw off, like, you know, all the things. And it was just a big headache. as it is, because they're learning and you're learning and they're brand new and they want to be back in you, not out of you. So I just didn't expect that. I expected it to just be so easy. Like you just put them on and they're like as like a little newborn. And like that's what you expect, but they're not quite all like that. And then the second day I like hit a breaking point and I was like, we have to give him a bottle. I can't do all this. Callum, take the bottle. You're doing it. And I was like, I gotta sleep. And so I slept for like an hour and he fed him and we were like, that was great. We can be a team again versus like it all being on me. And so we really liked that dynamic. So then I was pumping and giving him my milk, but I had no supply, like nothing, no colostrum at all. I never leaked in pregnancy. There's just nothing coming out. So I'm like pumping and there's nothing coming. And it was like excruciating and also just mentally like depressing, honestly, because I was like, what's wrong with me? My body doesn't work. Like there's literally nothing happening. And so the consultants were coming in like, you're just like it's late. You'll get your milk eventually. It'll come. And eventually I did, but it was always like not much. Like I used to get so excited when I get like 1 ounce. I was like, look, I got a whole ounce. And then you see on like social media people like, here's my oversupply, which no shame because I know that's also hard. You got to bag it, you got to do it. And it was like, what my body's broken. Like what's wrong with me? Why can't I make what my kid needs? And I want to do this so desperately. So we were always like formula and my milk. I got really, really, really dedicated to pumping. Like I was pumping up to 10 times a day because I was determined to make it work. And I know it's a supply and demand thing for 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes. And that was so exhausting, like mentally, physically exhausting, but it worked. And I got my supply up and I was like so proud of myself. Then we went on our trip to England, and with the time difference, it just completely went down, like I had no supply again, basically. And I was still pumping, not 10 times a day, more like 6, but it just completely dipped. And so I started like getting kind of over it. And then I got mastitis on vacation and I was like, I am done. This is like the worst thing I've ever done in my life. Why did I do this to myself? I should have just done formula. I didn't like it in the beginning. Then I made myself like it, which I'm really glad I had that experience. It was wonderful for the time that I loved it. But now I'm back to like, I don't like it. And I think that's fine. I'm happy with that. I've had all of the spectrums of love it, hate it. It's just an experience and I'm really excited to put it behind me.
I always love how candid and real Kira is in these conversations. I mean, you all are, but Kira especially is just like, I hated it.
Sorry. Hopefully he doesn't watch this someday and be like, Mom, why did you hate feeding me so much? But like, that's parenthood, right? We're people too still, and you're allowed to hate it and you're allowed to love it. You just do whatever works for you.
As long as he's well fed and well loved, which we know he is, he won't remember any of this and he'll be like, why'd you put so much pressure on yourself? It's okay.
I know. That is the real thing though. I feel like it's really hard to understand. Before I was in it, I was like, what's the big deal? Like, it's just literally food. But once the baby's there and you're like, oh my God, I just like baked this human for this long and they're so innocent and tiny and they need you for everything. And you're just like, if I don't do it, I'm a failure, is how it feels. And that's so silly because we know it's not like that. But when the hormones are pumping through you, at least in my experience, I literally felt like it was life or death. I have to figure this out because he can't have formula, when in reality that would have been so fine. It probably would have been better if I was more mentally there for him versus like obsessing over pumping. But you live and you learn.
That's interesting to hear because I almost feel like I'm more worried about external pressures of like people. I mean, you hear that just during your pregnancy, and people have kind of steeled me for that as a first time mom. Like, don't let other people really pressure you, or your opinions don't really matter. But you've talked about that before, Kira, that like your own personal internal pressures or expectations for yourself kind of took over. And that's really interesting to me. I wish I could tell Kira 3 months ago that.
Me too. I don't know what was wrong with me, but also nothing, because like that was my journey, and I have to honor that version of me who was like really obsessed with this and being a little cuckoo got through it and did it, and I did what I wanted to do. So now I need to just like get over it.
Kathy, I'd love to hear from you because your feeding journeys were so different, as you were saying. Walk us through either one or both of your day-to-days and not which was better, because both are their own challenges.
Yeah. So my daughter was born at 30. She was born after midnight. So she just passed 34 weeks. So she was like 5-6 weeks early. So she had to go straight to the NICU. I didn't see her for 24 hours. It was one of those like things. So that was very hard. And that's like a whole nother episode. But so I just had to pump and try. And Kira, I also never in the course of our entire journey got more than an ounce. It was a lot of work and it felt like not a lot of output, but I still did it to myself for like 5 months, which I can't believe I did so much for so little. But as a result, because I was pumping and then we had to do formula. I mean, we had to because she needed NeoSure, the like NICU formula. So it was always a partnered deal with me and my husband. So we alternated every feeding. Even when he went back to work, he was still like, we were alternating. We were both working. So we were both doing the night feeds once I was back from maternity leave. And I just felt like it was so much more of a partnership. I had so much more sleep. I realized when I did it with my second daughter, where I was trying to breastfeed and I was like, this is terrible. It is all on me. And I had even prepped myself. I was like, I am not going to let like feeding take over my mind and like let me get so cuckoo. Like you said, Kira, like everything you said resonated with me so much because I just like spent so much time thinking about it with my first baby and like that I was a failure because not only like nothing with the birth went as planned. She was early. It was this whole thing. And then the one thing I really wanted to do, I couldn't do. And so I was like, with my second kid, I'm putting no pressure on myself. If I like want to give her formula, it's fine. I can do it right away. And then as soon as she came out, I was like, oh my gosh, like breastfeeding's sort of working. I'm going to stick with it. And I remember like a weekend, I was like, okay, I can do this for like 6 months. Then I like told my husband, he was like, whatever. Like, and then the next day I was like, maybe 3 months, like maybe 2 months. Like, I don't know if I can do this. It was like, so hard when it is all on you. I just like I really like when I look back, I'm like, did I hate it? I don't think I hated it. I didn't love it, but my like I have this crystal clear memory of just being like sort of done. She was only like 2 months old. Not just done with breastfeeding. I was just like so tired. And I was like, I'm doing formula in the middle of the night. And I gave her a bottle and like my whole body just relaxed. Like having the bottle and the relief of it not being on me was like, I just couldn't believe I'd waited so long to like get that feeling. And then from then on, it was like combo feeding. I still was doing the majority of the feeding because we had a toddler now and she was still waking up in the night. And so my husband would manage her and then I did the baby. But I feel like the internal pressure, Kira, it's like so crazy. I was like, I am going to be so chill about it the second time around. I'm not going to let it take over. And it did. And I feel like the permission to be done or change, I felt like I needed external permission and it really like lives within you. I had our pediatrician, I think I was crying in her office for like the 14th time. And she was like, why are you putting so much pressure on yourself? And I just like, I needed someone else to say that to me. And like, it I don't know, it helps. So whoever's watching this, if you're looking for permission, here it is. It's just like, it's so emotional. It's so tough.
I could see myself being like that. I'm kind of like that with decision making in general, where it's just like, well, what do you think I should do? And it's like, and I'm sure everyone around me is going to be like, whatever is best for you.
Yeah, whatever you
have to decide, and it's okay to decide to change, like you said, or do something that you didn't think you would do, or whatever it is.
I do feel like when you get in a groove too of it and you want to quit, then you're like, okay, now I have to figure out how do I quit doing this, because you're like in pain again trying to stop, and then you're like leaking again. You're like, oh my God, I just don't want to be a cow anymore. I just want to be a human.
That's what overwhelms me. I feel like Steph, you mentioned like the comfort feeding. Like I'm almost worried about like habit forming one way or another. Like if you don't introduce the bottle by a certain time, then will they never take the bottle if you then decide I want to formula feed or, not just breastfeed, the comfort feeding in the middle of the night. Like I have no idea how you even begin to wean. Like how do you like these transition points? Like how do you we've talked so much about allowing yourself to move through these different choices or transitions, but how do you get the baby to move with you when you decide you want to do something different when all they're used to is
Yeah. It's very much you forcing them. It sounds terrible. But with the middle of the night, my son was terrible about this. Like I was just his human pacifier until he was like 8 months old, and I was going certifiably insane. Like I was already in postpartum depression, and it was like really pushing me, not being able to sleep more than 3 hours for the last 8 months. So at that point, I sleep trained. Sorry, but I did. I sleep trained him. I worked with like a consultant, and it was not like cry it out. Like we did a whole like routine and system to help him kind of sleep longer, and that's when that stopped. But it was very much a force it situation with him. Like he at 8 months wasn't showing signs of stopping, no matter how much I refused to give him the boob, he would still be waking up. So sometimes you have to make the choice for yourself rather than for them, because ultimately the choice for yourself is going to help them in the long run. Like if it helps your mental health to switch to the next thing, you're only going to be a better mom because of it. So if I had to force it. And with the weaning, because I had breastfed for so long, I was already naturally making a lot less milk because they were needing a lot less milk. So past the year mark, it was like I would feed less times a day until we got to like maybe 2 feedings a day. Then it was like just the bedtime feed, just right before bed. And I wasn't noticing that like I was getting engorged anymore because again, I was already not producing a ton anyway. That was it. It was like, and that's what their pediatrician told me to do too. Just like keep reducing it like by week. It's like from 1 week it would be like maybe 4 times a day, 6 times a day, whatever it was. And then yeah, I would like reduce a feed every week or every other week, depending on how needy they were being. Until finally, like, that was it. And they were just old enough to the point where they weren't requesting it so much. So I wouldn't know what to say if when they're younger than a year old, but I would assume it's very similar. Slowly weaning versus just like from one day to the next, because that's what causes a lot of the engorgement and clogged ducts and everything. And that also goes back to my point of when you get to that stage is when you have to worry about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't prepare for it now. Because I guarantee you could read everything right now and you're just going to fucking forget it as soon as baby's here. You're going to Google it anyway. So,
yeah, that's true. Patty, how did you handle some of those transitions, especially when you had your second?
Yeah, I feel it's so funny hearing everybody's stories because we all have very different experiences, but I identify with everything everybody just said. With the transitions, especially with like my eldest having a 4-year-old running around, wanting me to play with him, and then my other kid on my boob, I just felt very stuck because I had 2 kids to take care of and one is still little. With the transition, I just told myself like when you're done, you're done. And then like Steph just said, I'll figure it out. And I did the same thing. Like I weaned one feeding time at a time and I was already underproducing at that point. So it was like the more I can push formula, that's fine. We'll get it done. Everybody's fed. Yeah, that transition with the second one was very different, but kind of did the same thing.
Kira, should we talk about mastitis?
Sure. Did anyone else have mastitis or is it in my solo experience? Oh, man.
I'm surprised because I thought it was like pretty common.
I hope it's not because it was horrible.
I, a long time ago, babysat for a mom who literally, her husband was on a work trip and she was like, I need you to just come over and hold this newborn because I have mastitis. And I was just like, okay, I don't know what that is, but like, I'll come over and babysit, whatever. I have never seen someone so sick. She looked like she had the flu and she was just like, I just need to lay down. And I was like, at the end of my couple hours there, I felt awful leaving her. I just had no idea. And I was like, this woman is not okay. Was that your experience, Kira? Sounds horrible.
Yeah, and I was on vacation. So when I thought I had mastitis twice because I had like very clear warning signs, like maybe I should be pooping more than I was, but whatever. You live and you learn. That's what I keep telling myself. I can't worry about what I did wrong. I had like a couple warning signs that I really thought, and I like went to the doctor and they were like, it looks like it's like working towards that. Like it's a clogged duct, but no matter what I would do, I'd like massage, I would pump more. It just like didn't make a difference. I have always had clogged duct issues. I took the sunflower supplements, all of it, nothing helps. Like literally, I don't know why everything is so dry within me, but that's okay. It is what it is. Well, because there's an 8-hour time difference, he literally just like slept through the whole flight and adjusted in our time to the new time. I did not. Like I missed quite a few pumps from like the travel and all of that, and it just like out of nowhere I was in the car and I remember feeling like there's something like wrong. There's something seriously wrong. Like it hurts so bad. And then like maybe 2 hours later, I like couldn't move. I was in bed. I just like was crying in pain and I was like to my husband, figure it out. I need a doctor. I don't know what to do. Like, you got to find me a doctor. And he's like, okay, let me find like a virtual doctor. Found a virtual doctor, and he was like so nonchalant about it. He's like, oh, all right. Yeah, that sucks. I'll give you some antibiotics. And that was it. And I like literally got antibiotics in some random pharmacy. I would like to hope that nobody ever gets mastitis on vacation, because if I were home, it probably would have been a lot easier. But the pain of it, it was up there with like, it was worse than COVID, worse than the flu. Actually, I think it was like the worst pain I've ever had other than like birth, probably. It was just debilitating. And like the shakes of giving birth, it was the same thing, those shakes again. But once I got the antibiotics, I was chilling and I was like, let's go out after this. Like, I am a new person and I am done pumping. That was the sign I needed. Newsflash, I am still pumping. 2 months later, but it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Did anyone else deal with just like clogged ducts?
I did constantly. It was definitely a symptom of like overproducing. There was just so much milk and I had to get it out constantly. And if I would like pass even an hour past their feeding time, I would start to feel the pain. So like I would get like the beginning stages where like the duct is clogged and it's painfully clogged. So like every time you touch it, it was like like you couldn't really touch it. And I'd have ducts that were clogged for like several days. I don't know how it never turned into mastitis, but I was like constantly massaging it. I was having my husband massage it. I'm like, get your fingers in there and like move it around, please. It's very much a bonding experience for you and your partner. I had like a vibrator for the duct, so I would like put like the vibrator on. There has to be a better word for that. It's like a vibrating device.
I don't know.
And that would help a lot. Like, it helped the pain of it, and it would help it kind of move the milk around a bit. And I would make sure to put the baby on that side because baby could kind of suck a little bit better than a breast pump could. And after like a couple of days of like doing the massaging, the vibrating, having him feed on this side exclusively, and I would also like massage it while he was feeding and do the vibrator while he was feeding, and that eventually would make it kind of release. But it happened a lot, especially in the beginning when I was producing like the most I'd ever produce. And yeah, it's very painful. And then you end up being sore even after the duct is unclogged. Like there's just like a sore spot there for it could be like a week or two just there. And it tends to get clogged all over again later on. So that's fun.
I have a couple more topics I would love to talk about. One is like freezer supply. How does that all work?
We had to buy a deep freezer for our garage. That's probably extreme. But we don't have a huge freezer like in our fridge. We had like, like the little storage bins. And so when you freeze them flat so that you can stack them really easily. And eventually it just got too full that we had to get a deep freezer for the garage, and then that's where we kind of stored everything else. That's the whole like Haka situation where like you have baby on one side and then you do the other side with a breast pump or a Haka. Like that's how you can build it pretty easily like the first few months. and just like slow and steady build it up.
Did you use all of that milk? I mean, aside from the deep freeze that you lost.
I didn't. I ended up donating a lot of it. I had like a neighbor down the street that was struggling to breastfeed, and I just gave her as much as I could.
That's awesome. But that's, I mean, that's like the best case scenario, I guess, if you're like an oversupplier and then you also have this oversupply of frozen milk. But it's like, at a certain point, was that supply in the deep freezer, like, how are we ever going to get through this? Like, even if I stop breastfeeding today, I could keep feeding this using a bottle with this, but there's so much.
Yeah, I mean, and that's obviously like not as common, but you can donate it to hospitals. Like NICUs will take it. There's tons of like Facebook groups for like donating milk as well. And I know a lot of moms end up doing that instead of formula, or maybe alongside of formula, they'll like have another mom who is an overproducer and like helps them out. That's a really nice thing that people do for each other. But in a normal circumstance, you have your own stash and you will likely go through it pretty quickly. And it's honestly, whatever you get is great, you know? Whether you want to use that for like nighttime feedings, that's something that a lot of moms will do. Like whatever they produce during the day extra, they'll save it for night, and that way they can sleep. And then dad gets to feed during the night. And like that overnight supply, you can pump like a nice pump in the morning, get it all out, and then you have more. That's something that moms will do as well.
Did anyone else do the whole freezing supply?
Never had enough.
Yeah, me neither. It was always a situation of like celebrating if I could even make enough for a bottle. In my experience, like that's what our journey looked like. If I had a full bottle of breast milk, I was like, I've done it. Reward. There's only about a month of that.
We've talked a lot about breast pumps. Kira, I know you have a lot to say about breast pumps. I think you tried like every one that exists, you said at one point. I know wearables too are, especially for working moms when they go back to work. Patty, is that what you used when you went back to work? A wearable, or did you have a more traditional electric pump?
Back with my first one. Since I was in the office, I pumped with the bigger pump. So I would have to go to a separate room, log off, leave for 30 minutes every couple of hours. But with my second one, luckily we all work from home, but it was nice with like meetings and stuff. I could hand off my baby to my husband and I would just pump and wear a wearable basically all day. So that was helpful. But with wearables, I've noticed that it's not as strong, and like they'll warn you to that they're not as strong as the bigger pumps. So that was one thing that I felt like contributed to my undersupply even more so with my second one.
I only use wearables only because my main one literally doesn't work for me, the one I got through insurance. So I think that also is part of the reason I never had a good supply, and I was too stubborn to buy one that plugs into the wall again, because I thought, if I'm going to spend money on this, I want one I can walk around with. So
do you have a favorite one, Kira, since you've tried a bunch?
The Eufy one that like heats up, specifically because I like struggle with clogged ducts a lot. I have them on right now. Actually, I was pumping when we were recording this because you never get a break when you're a mom. I also have bought a few, which is like probably not a great practice, off Facebook Marketplace, because some of them just like don't work for me, and then other ones have been great, and I just don't want to spend like $200 if I don't know. But all of the Mom Cozy ones are great, and the Willow Go was good, but I didn't like it as much as my Mom Cozy.
It's such an expensive product to trial and error, like wearables or even just traditional breast. So that's really hard, especially since it sounds like different ones do different things for different people. So how are you supposed to know which one?
It's so hard. I feel like in theory they should all work, right? But like literally no matter what I did with the one I got through insurance, because I didn't know what I was doing, I just like picked one. Honestly, I picked one that looked like it came with the most stuff and was fully free, and now I realize it's fully free with the most stuff because it sucks.
I do feel like there's so much learning that goes into pumping too. Like I remember, thankfully, a lactation consultant said like the flange size was completely wrong for me. Like that was part of the reason I was in so much pain. But I like was using the ones it came with. How would I ever know? I mean, because my journey was quite a few years ago. It's so crazy, the innovation, number one. For two, insurance didn't cover breast pumps 12 years ago. I was like lucky. My office provided a hospital grade one for 6 months. So that's what I used. Otherwise, I would have had to have it all out of pocket. And the wearables weren't around for either of my kids, which I had like a nursing bra that I would try and use, but that never worked for me either. So I was always holding like this, like a one, like it was terrible. So the innovation, I'm very grateful for that. It's like finally feel like it's probably just more women in the room and making all the products just so much better. So I feel like there's a lot of trial and error, but I'm also just want to give a little celebration to how far we've come in a short time.
There's so many more products we could talk about and I want to talk about because I feel like I need them all. But like from nursing bras to nursing pillows, and there's so many different iterations of those. I'm like, tell me what I need.
It so varies because like I don't have a large chest. So like I feel like certain pillows are good for different size breasts. There's like there's so many variables. So I do feel like some of it is just gonna be like you testing it out and personal preference.
I just bought my first nursing bra, and when I put it on, I was like, what is this contraption? Like there were so many clips and so many layers, and like I thought I knew. And then when I had it on, I was like, this is way more complicated than it me, which felt like kind of embarrassing. But yeah, the whole thing, from my very limited pre-birth experience, all of this is a major learning curve. And so I'm grateful to have talked to you guys about it and to get even a sliver of the insight you've given, because it's overwhelming, and feeding, it seems like a total full-time job.
Have somebody you can text. I feel like the recent moms who are like had just passed through the stage I was in were like my lifeline, and they gave me like a glimpse of the future. So even, and if you don't have a mom at the same stage, like just somebody who's been there that will give you a little like pep talk, and it helps. I feel like it was rough the first couple weeks, and just having someone to be like, those first 2 weeks are terrible, you will get through it.
I genuinely agree. Like, just having someone that you feel like kind of understands it, because it is such an isolating experience that really you can't get until you do it, really makes a big difference.
Even that day I tried on the nursing bra after it came in the mail, I texted one of my friends who just had a baby, and I was like, can we talk about nursing bras? And she was like, yeah, they're crazy. And it's like, okay, thank you. Like,
Yeah, it helps. It helps so much.
well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for everyone listening and tuning in to our Everymom Group Chat call today. We have covered lots of topics already in the parenting space, and we have lots more episodes coming up. And as always, please check out our website, theeverymom.com, and follow us on Instagram at the Everymom for even more helpful parenting content on all the things. We are here to talk about all the things. Thank you guys so much for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.